Come on, stream. You know you want to work. Welcome to Nights of Cinema. Tonight we're talking about Doom. As always, we have Firehawk 8312, and as always, we have the most stupidest person in the world from last night, Sid. Welcome, guys.
Hello. Also, I'm leaving that in as like the VOD intro, by the way.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. Hope you're all ready for this wild ride because oh boy, I'm gonna need like 10 minutes in the what we didn't like section to just rant.
Yeah, and I'm going to be countering everything you're going to be saying.
Okay, Seth, if you want to do the plot overview for this one.
I haven't actually got anything written down, so I was going to let you take the plot overview.
Okay, I'm only gonna do this one relatively roughly. So
Yeah.
story starts off with a bunch of what I assume is U.S. Marines. It's never particularly stated, I don't believe.
The RRTC, I think it was.
Yeah, it's a rapid response team, but I believe they're U.S. Marines. I just don't know. I just don't know what organization they belong to. I just know they're a rapid response team.
Yeah, they were Marines, hence the tattoo on the rock's back saying Semper Fi.
Yeah. We have them basically getting a mission briefing before they're all going to go on holiday. They have to go investigate a lockdown of a facility on Mars that's connected by some weird jank portal. They end up going there, and we find out that one of the Marines, the creatively named Reaper, his name's Grim. His last name's Grim, so that's his Grim Reaper. Yeah. Anyway, who's played by Carl Urban, believe it or not, before he was super famous. They all head in, and we find his sister, and she has to go in and get a bunch of information for the UNS. It's not UNSC. That's Halo. What is it? The UAC.
Yeah, the UAC.
The UAC group. Unfortunately, a bunch of monsters have started roaming around, and we don't see any of them till a little bit later after they start wandering around, investigating the facility. They find a bunch of weird stuff happen. They find a doctor who ripped his ears off because he's basically gone bonkers. He turns into some weird monster thing. They do their shooty bang bangs and whatnot. We go into the sewer not long after that for some reason. I believe they just needed to go down there. I don't think it's explicitly stated. Probably is. One of the guys gets killed by a giant water monster thing. He turns into another monster. He kills himself because he doesn't want to be a monster. Seth, do you know where we're up to right now?
Yeah, I do know where we're up to.
Cool. Can you catch up? Because I just got to mute myself real quick.
Right, so if I remember rightly, they had just discovered that the monsters that had been chasing them, some of them were actually the scientists that they had actually come to save, because they had three directives: to protect civilians, to rescue the scientists, and also to recover the scientific data. So Grimm's sister, Samantha, there's a slight plot arc, might as well say, there is going through. Just carry on.
Yeah, so you've got up to the part where they return to the doctor's surgery after he's committed suicide, haven't you?
Yeah, I just explained how they have just realised that some of the creatures chasing them are actually humans that were humans.
Yeah, so they split off into twos, and we have a bunch of them get basically murdered after they're like, look, this is now a clean house and come back mission. We have them go off in twos, and they summarily get murdered. One of the guys actually ends up being like, well, I'm going to send a message to UAC, or back to basically base, and be like, hang on a second, something ain't right here. We need reinforcements, and at that point, they basically set off a self-destruct bomb, I think? Yeah, it's a self-destruct, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they basically go, hey, look, we need to evacuate. And Grim goes, hey, I need to go back and get my sister because she hadn't followed them for some reason. I believe she was getting more information.
Yeah. She
And
was
The Rock
still.
and the,
I think she was still getting the last of the data that they required to take back.
yeah, and The Rock and the rest of the crew that are still alive go back through a portal. And as Grimm gets there, she explains to him that all of this was caused by an extra chromosome. You heard that right. Extra chromosome. Yep. We'll get to that in the parts we didn't like. So
With the parts you didn't like.
they realize that the Rock and the others actually plan to kill all of the people escaping the thing because they think they all might be infected. We move on to the next scene where we have Carl Urban and Samantha and the Rock all kind of catching up, and him going, "Hey, you don't need to shoot these peeps. That not all of them are evil. Not all of them are infected." And he's like, "No, I gotta kill them all." And they'd actually killed most of them. And the youngest member of the team, his first mission, the Rock just is like, he's like, "I'm not gonna shoot innocents." And the Rock's like, "Ah, bam! I'm the bad guy now." And ensue bunch of bad crap happening, bunch of these weird mutant zombie things attacking. The Rock, in what I might say is probably the funniest scene, gets pulled through a, what they call them, nano door?
Yep.
Yeah. And he quote unquote says, "I'm not supposed to die here," in a well-placed meta joke.
Break the fourth wall right there.
Yeah, shattered it. He ends up basically vanishing, and then we see Carl Urban, who gets basically shot. And his sister's like, "Hey, sorry, I got the last of this serum shit. Here, have this. It'll make you super powerful." And he's like, "I don't want it, bloody blah." And then she's like, "Stab you anyway." He's like, shit." Then he passes out, and he wakes up to see nobody around, and we get probably the best series of scenes in the movie, where we go into like a first-person Doom-esque shot, and he runs down the corridors killing all the guys like you're the camera from Doom. It's actually some really cool camera work. The only good thing, in my opinion, about this movie. And we then cut to a gloriously over-the-top fight scene between The Rock and Carl Urban, with The Rock pulling out some clearly wrestling-inspired moves. And he ends up beating The Rock and throwing him into the portal and being like, "Here's a super grenade, eat that." And then The Rock, dies. Then we cut to the ending of Carl Urban's character Grimm and his sister Samantha going up the elevator back to Earth. So, let's get into the what we liked part about this film. Seth, do you want to lead us off, considering you're probably the only person out of the three of us that liked this film?
Actually, I'm going to throw this one over to Sid, because I know for a fact he does like the film.
Well, great.
Oh, thank you. And yes, I do liked it. It was, for its time, it was quite well done. And you're right about the first-person shots; they were outstanding. Which is, I mean, this film was loosely based on the game from ID Software.
Loosely, Sid. If it was any more loosely based, the thing would be a goddamn, like, flapping flag in the weird...
Let him finish.
For all its bad points, the good points are they're stuck to the main characters according to the game itself, with the weapons and the choices of weapons that they used in the actual film, and it was good.
Seth, you can go. I'm literally holding my breath.
Why are you holding your breath for, buddy?
Because I really want to interrupt Sid.
Well, over to you.
Alright, okay, yeah. He does make some good points. It is, and I mean very loosely based on the, I think it was like 95 game that was released on PC, well, personal computers, blah, blah, blah. What I did like about the movie, yeah, the first person scene with Carl Urban. Great actor, in my mind, but everyone has their own opinion. What else did I like about the movie? For its time, it was at best average. Storyline, story arcs was a joke, but I'll get to that in the what I didn't like about the movie, because it's probably going to take the longest part of this whole podcast tonight. Anything else I liked about the movie? Not really. I'll throw it back over to my co-host Hawk.
The first person scene, that's it. The rest of it is fucking garbage.
I thought the soundtrack and music was quite.
No. The remake of the 2016 Doom game, that's a Doom soundtrack. This garbage made EDM look like Skrillex shat it out, ate it again, and then decided to remix a dubstep song while he was on goddamn LSD.
Wow.
Oh, just so you know, this movie got 19% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, that's about right.
Grossed $56 million at the box office. So, there's some numbers for you.
Seth, lead us into what you didn't like, because I'm going to probably take the longest, and I'd turn us down when I start speaking.
Right, what I didn't like. Well, The Rock was just coming out of his Disney phase, so he wasn't at the prime as where he is now. So there was that. And, okay, the line that he says, "I'm not supposed to die." Okay, it is a great line, but it's said so cheesy that, for me, that was like that was pushing, he was trying to push something that wasn't really there. Kind of like his whole wrestling career. What else I didn't like about the movie? I know someone's trying hard not to make an argument with me right now. Soundtrack was gross at best. Director didn't know what the fuck he was doing, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. Pretty much a movie that could have been great in its time, but they failed horribly. They made the Doom franchise look really, really weak for a lot of years after this movie. But that's my view on it. Sid, what didn't you like about this movie?
Oh, it's a bit hard to say. I suppose the graphics weren't that too wonderful. The dialogue wasn't great at all. The interaction with the characters, really, not until the end, really, where it's just The Rock and Carl Urban fighting off. It just didn't seem to flow very well. I suppose that's about it. Yeah, the music wasn't too wonderful, really, but it did keep in step with the actual game music in some parts of it. Not all of it, but in some parts. They could have shown more of the weapons from the game. Like, they had the BFG, but that was about it that they were showing. There were a lot of other weapons that they could have shown off.
One thing I do have to say, it's a bit of trivia for you guys. You know how they've got the BFG in this movie, right? This goes to both of you, so I need you both to acknowledge me. The Rock still actually has one in his personal collection, so that's a bit of trivia for you.
That's alright.
Hawk, you okay there?
We'll be in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I suppose that's about what I didn't like about the film.
Here we go. And 3,
Right,
2,
everybody
1.
sit down, shut the fuck up. This is gonna get good. Right, first problem, and this is something I desperately need to get on. Apparently, the director and the script writers decided that reading from the North American Book of Inaccurate Genetics was a really, really, really great way to set a plot that was supposed to be about demons in hell. No, we're going to put an extra chromosome in them and call that the bad guy. Hey guys, do you want to know what that's called? Genetic disorders such as goddamn fucking Down syndrome. Down syndrome doesn't give you superpowers. Hate to break it to you. Dear God, that was incredibly stupid. It is up there in the stupidest things. Sorry, that is my Facebook going off on my audio. Ignore that. I'm unprofessional.
We know.
Let's just close that briefly. Okay, back to what I was yelling about.
Take a breath.
Scientists wouldn't be that stupid. They'd be like, these people have an extra chromosome. Yeah, that's Down syndrome for sure. It doesn't give you superpowers. Literally doesn't give you superpowers. It is the direct opposite of superpowers. Makes you relatively normal with an extra chromosome. We're all a little weird, to be fair. Second problem. That was the first problem, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second problem.
Composure.
Writers even try to make the film slightly interesting. It was boring. They tried for so much edge. They ended up with a butter knife. This is Doom. The same franchise that let us ripping eyes out of demons, shotgunning monstrosities in the face, and we got a bad CGI'd Rock versus an angry Carl Urban. Great finale. Where exactly was our pinkies? Where exactly was any of the demons, cyber demons,
We hit one
the
pinky.
eyeball guys? That was not Pinky, thank you very much. That was an bomb of goddamn nation. Now, we'll move on. Well, thank you, Seth, for that little segue into the third problem with the film. Dear God, the CGI looked like something a goddamn grade schooler could have shat out, even at that time better than they could. Why? Why? Surely there were better people to do this than what you had. Surely. Or did you just go, you know what, we got $5 left. Yeah, kid knows computer. Yeah, just give him a $5 and give him Chris by 5. He'll do the CGI for us. That's called stupidity. Seth, while you're here, can you look up the budget of this film for me?
Budget was 65 million and they only made 56 at the box office. So they spent more than they actually made.
That's about right.
Alright, I've got all that already in front of me.
Okay, thank you. You had 65 million and you couldn't get any decent CGI. Shit, you should have just done practical effects at that point. The one practical effects scene we have, where you see the demon dude trapped in the goddamn nano wall, that's actually semi-alright. And then she starts talking about, oh, look, he's got an extra chromosome and was evil and now is a mutant person. It's like, that's not how science works. We literally know how the human genome works. That's not how it works. We don't just inject alien chromosomes into our cells and be like, nah, it'll be fine, right? Be good, guys. Back on the chromosome things.
Well, she did mention that it was a synthetic chromosome, so it was man-made.
That's even worse.
And the fact that this chromosome targets people with violent tendencies, and that's why they mutate into
Hey, Sid.
monsters.
Hey, Sid. Do you want to watch your whole genetic code unravel?
Why not?
Because I'll give you a synthetic chromosome, and that's what'll goddamn happen.
That's what they were trying to do.
The justification is stupid, Sid. The setup is stupid. And the final most insulting thing about this entire film, mind you, I've eaten up nearly 15 minutes with this, is it had barely anything to do with the source material except for the goddamn name.
Exactly. Like I said, they could have done a better job of the film.
The
They
BFG,
could have used more stuff that was in the actual games themselves, like showcasing some of the weapons, like the shotguns and other stuff that was actually in the game. Some of the other monsters that you come across.
Monsters?
Wow.
monsters.
Okay, floating eyes and stuff like that. You know, the other stuff that the game had, they could have showcased
Pinkies,
that.
cyber demons,
Yeah, all the cool stuff
Spiders.
that you,
imps.
all the cool stuff that you came across in the game, all the cool scenes, they could have introduced some of that, but they didn't. So yeah, like I said, it was loosely based on the game.
You also brought up a great point. The weapon design was absolutely fucking atrocious. The BFG looked like Nerf shat out a gun and said, "You know what? That's even too stupid for us." And the producers of Doom went,
We'll take
"Fuck
it.
yeah." The assault rifles were boring. There was no, as Sid said, where was the classic shotgun? Where was it? Where was the minigun?
The only thing that
I
they did,
believe one guy had a minigun and he was barely in the film.
the
There
only
was
thing that
Destroyer, I think.
apart from the
You are correct.
BFG, the only other weapon that they had was the chainsaw. Those are basically the only two.
They had the
weapons.
minigun too.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, three reference weapons from the game. That's it. The rest were just stock standard weapons that you'd see in any army movie countless number of times.
And the biggest crime of all of this film's problem. Now, had they marketed this as a sloggy B-movie sci-fi-esque horror thing, okay, sure, I'd be down. They were like, nah, this is going to be a great movie, guys. Wasn't. They lied. The movie was shit. They said, hey, we made a Doom movie adaptation, which, you know what, for a game, could work. It is pretty simple to do. It's really not that hard. And yet, they grabbed a rebar covered in spikes, shoved it right up the fans' anus holes. That movie is incredibly forgettable, borderline insulting, and so stupid.
Well, here's something that you're probably not going to like. They will have announced that they're going to do a reboot of it in 2018, and it should be out in production by 2019. They'll call it Doom Annihilation.
You know what they really should call it?
The Annihilation of Doom.
Doom, we fucked it up again, guys.
Like I said, you're really going to hate it.
Oh.
And should we do a review of that one?
Unfortunately. So, does anybody want to add anything to my near 15-minute rant on this garbage fire of a movie?
I'm just looking at the cast for the new Doom movie, and there's no one there.
Who's on it?
No one.
Amy Manson, Dominic Mathen, Luke Allen Gale, Nina Bergman, Louis Mandela, Harry Dillon, Lauren Krendeloff.
Yep, movie's gonna be garbage.
As produced by Universal Pictures.
Okay, speaking of the Doom movie we're actually talking about.
There's not one recognisable actor there that I've ever heard of.
Anyway, I digress.
Let's do an extra segment. Do you think the movie could have been saved?
Yeah, by a different director. Who actually knew what the fuck he was doing. Who actually had a decent script to actually go with it. And decent fucking there was like, even back in 2005, there was a huge community that would literally have got behind this movie. But they screwed the pooch on this one.
Honestly, I'm not gonna say the acting was bad. The acting was fine. The script was just so shit.
Did I
Like I
mention
said,
anything
wasn't
about this?
really
Did I
much
mention anything about the
dialogue
acting?
in
No.
it.
No, but I'm gonna make sure that the people realize that it wasn't the actors. It was definitely the script.
Director, I can't even pronounce that. I will put that actually up in chat. The director.
Go check that one. Go check in chat if you want to know. The director is, and if I remember, I'll put it in the actual title of the video. Sid, what do you think could have saved this movie, if anything?
Better script, I would say. Definitely, if the plot was a little bit more thought out, if they actually had some story arcs going on in there, so try to engage the audience a bit, so get people to actually be interested in the film. Um, I think that could possibly have saved it. Again, if they actually brought in some of the weapons from the game, the actual creatures from the game, some of the actual game cutscenes, maybe, or like more of the first-person stuff that they did towards the end of the film.
Apparently, that was excessively hard for them to actually do.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe back then it would have been, but now it should have been easy thing to do. Who knows? Maybe this next one that is due to be released at some point this year might actually be a half decent job. It's definitely done by a different director.
Yeah.
But if they actually use some actors that people actually know, that could actually pull this off properly. Um, I wouldn't say use The Rock again, but I mean, just some decent actors that would pull in the money, I think. Because I don't think the actors that they have got will do that job. What do you reckon?
Look, the only thing that I think could have saved this film is by not releasing it in 2005 and actually doing a James Cameron and waiting till you have the facilities and the technology to make it look as good as it should do for a movie such as Doom that is going to either require heavy practical effects or heavy CGI. Doing it in 2005 was the wrong move because, first of all, Doom 3 was not a great received game. I personally would have been. Who? It's ID that does.
Yeah.
Still
ID
does Doom?
Software had the game, but I believe it's been bought out by Bethesda.
But there's the publishers, I think.
Yes, publisher.
The developers is ID Software.
Yeah, I would. If I was making the movie, I would have contacted ID and John Romero and all of those people that were involved in Doom and talked to them and gone, "Yo, what do we need to make this film as good as it can be?" Because clearly they didn't.
Well, the thing is, there was quite a number of books that were produced. If I remember, like
We don't talk about the Doom comics.
no, I'm not talking about comics. I'm talking about actual published books. There were books actually published based on the game, and they could have used that as source material for these films, or at least do some basic research.
And they could have just done some research and played the damn game.
That too,
Mm.
but what I mean is there were quite a few books out there. I think maybe between 5 and 10 actual published books based on the game, and and each one would have fleshed out the characters in the game itself. If you read the books, and they could have done something like that. And as you say, they could have waited. Like the first game came out in '93. And was it 2005 that they did the film?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
I
was
don't.
2005.
Yeah, I don't think the technology was really up to that kind of work at that time. Maybe if they waited until 2010 to do it, they might have had a better shot at pulling this off. That's my opinion, anyway.
Sid, for once, you're not wrong. There's just look, if you go and watch this film and you're able to divorce it from its source material and go, it's not a Doom movie, it's just a schlocky sci-fi B movie horror, you'll
And
have
there's,
a great time.
and
Mm.
there's been so many of those out there.
Just not with this kind of budget. If you go into this like a lot of people did, going, oh hey, this is going to be related to Doom, you, like me, are gonna have a bad time. Or anybody who even knows the slightest bit about genetics.
That's where it comes down to sloppy writing and just bad science all over.
Oh, 100%. Like, I don't need you to be like, hey, this is like super realistic science. Like, I can be okay if you talk it off as, you know, techno babble. But what you don't do is you tell me it's an extra chromosome. When everybody knows that an extra chromosome in a human is usually not a great thing for them.
No, it's usually a bad thing.
I'm not gonna say it's a bad thing because Down syndrome people are fine. They're perfectly fine. It can also lead to basic infertility. There's so many different things it can do. Down syndrome is one of the many, and they're perfectly fine people and live great and happy lives. But you can't put it in this and tell me that it both makes you a superhero and a supervillain.
Like I said, bad science.
Yeah, bad science. It's not how it works. I don't need you to just do anything else. Do a virus. Do literally anything else.
The thing is, back then, I think they had the impression, oh, we'll dumb it down for the American public and that because
Yeah,
they won't
but
really
I'm
get
all
it.
for dumb action movies. But don't treat me like I'm a fucking imbecile.
But that was the mentality back then, I think. And you see it in a lot of other films of that era, especially the sci-fi or the horror that has a sci-fi bent on it, or scientific bent on it, I should say. That they will do this sort of thing. And
Alright, we'll move on to the final part of this podcast. Seth, do you want to give us your final thoughts?
My final thoughts. They just needed a better script, better direction, and it could have actually been an okay movie. Instead, they went with a low budget, low, crappy director, and they just basically tried to piggyback off ID Software's success at that time. So I give this a D minus for a movie as an actual Doom franchise movie. If it was just a generic sci-fi horror, I would give it a C plus as a B-rated movie.
Alright, Sid, what are your final thoughts?
I would have to agree with Seth in that regard. Yeah, first time the movie was okay, but you look back at it, what, 10, 15 years later, and it really is just shit. Yeah. They could have done something a lot better. They could have introduced a lot more elements into it. Um, they could have tried to get the actual public sort of immersed into the film, I guess. But they didn't really do any of that sort of stuff. Like,
I'll give my final thoughts here because we're all pretty much in agreement. The film was garbage. It's Look, if you want to have a stupid time and you want to laugh at a movie and not think at all, then go watch it.
I'm not meant to die here.
Here's
Huh?
something.
I'm not meant to die here.
Mm.
Yeah, here's something. Where was the toxic waste?
You are the toxic waste.
Oof.
Okay. There was none of that in the game. Well, let's see. We had a chainsaw. Did we see the plasma rifle?
We did
that-
not.
No.
We only see the minigun, the chainsaw, and the BFG.
Yeah. We didn't see any power ups or anything like that. We didn't see
The
any
power up
stats.
was the chromosome 24.
Yeah, I guess it was. We didn't see any berserkers.
Sid, we didn't see so much in this movie that it could have been. Now, okay, maybe the new Doom movie will be good. Maybe.
Who knows? Well, it's done by a different director and a whole new cast, so it's a wait and see until it actually gets released, I guess.
They need to basically do what Doom 2016 did, where it was the story was there if you wanted it, and it was a pretty good story, but ultimately it was about killing demons.
Well, that was the essence of the game and of the film.
Well, not of the fucking that film. The essence of the
No.
film was we found a chromosome and we're fucking super people now.
Yeah, and apparently that's what killed whoever the society that lived on Mars.
Can you tell that I really don't like this film? So apart from that one first-person action scene and Carl Urban acting his ass off when he really didn't need to, the film was just garbage. Just don't waste your time unless you really want to laugh at a movie. That's my final thoughts on that. So I think that brings us to the conclusion, unless you guys have got something else to add.
I was just going through with the new director for the new Doom, since that was brought back up again. I was going through what movies he's actually written. Well, not directed, but written for. But I was just going through what he's directed as well. What he's written for is obviously Doom, Death Race 2,
The
3.
original Doom?
No, the new one he's
Okay.
done. Timber Falls, Chaos, In the Enemy Hands, and Soccer Dog, the movie. That's what he's written for. And he's also directed Soccer Dog, the movie, In the Enemy's Hand, Chaos, Timber Falls, Resident Evil Afterlife.
Oh boy.
That gives you an idea where this is going to go.
I liked the new Resident Evil movies because they know what they are and they're stupid fun. And with Resident Evil, you don't need to. Resident Evil's so weird and stupid. You can put movies like that in it, and people just accept it. Where Doom's not one you can do that with.
No. Anyway, to wrap up this debacle of a movie, yeah, giving you my final thoughts. Has anyone else got anything else they want to add?
Nah, you can sign us off, Seth.
Sid?
No, I've got nothing really left.
Anyway, that was Doom. A very doomed movie. That
Yeah.
could you come up with anything better? No, shut up.
Yeah, burn the goddamn thing.
Yeah, I'll just burn it down to the ground.
Thank you.
I get one of them a week.
Fine.
But anyway, as I was saying, horrible movie. Hopefully the movie we watch this week is going to be a bit better, which we're going to go discuss. That will be posted up on the YouTube.
I do know what it is next week.
You don't get to pick the next movie. You do realise that, eh?
We're going to Captain. We're doing Captain Marvel next week.
Are we? Because I can't go to it next week.
Didn't you go see it this week?
No.
All right. Well, we'll figure something out then.
Yeah. Because I was going to go to see it next week.
Well, I'm seeing it Friday, so.
Yeah, I'll probably be seeing it Thursday next week.
Alright.
Anyway, back to my outro, you Horrible movie. Good movie if you like generic movies. Just take it with a grain of salt. With lots of salt. And until next time, guys. Till next week. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
And Sid's an idiot. Bye.